Migration is not new. It is a phenomenon that has existed for thousands of years, shaping societies, cultures, and everyday life. Migrants are not only figures in the news, they are our neighbors, our co-workers, our friends, the people who serve our food, care for our families, and share our communities. Yet despite how present migration is in our lives, the realities behind it often remain unseen. Every year, millions of people are forced to leave behind everything they know, not in search of adventure, but simply to survive. Migration is often spoken about through numbers, borders, and headlines. Yet it is lived through uncertainty, waiting, and difficult choices made far from public view. It unfolds in moments of departure, through long and uncertain journeys, and in the space between leaving home and arriving somewhere unknown.
Start by saying something. First, we have to understand that migration has always happened and will always take place. It is not a problem that we need to solve, it is a reality that we have lived with for generations.
Se llama Santuario. Nosotros crecimos en una familia católica tradicional, entonces nuestra educación fue muy basada hacia la moral, el respeto hacia lo religioso, lo católico. Entonces con unos valores y un respeto siempre como por los demás. Tuvimos una infancia normal, tranquila, con mamá, papá, todos juntos. Pero Colombia es un país muy violento. Entonces, ya cuando fuimos como adolescentes, bueno, en mi caso cuando yo era adolescente, pues ya perdí a mi papá, luego a mi mamá, luego a mis hermanos. Entonces ahí ya se puso un poquito complicado la vida como familiar, social, bueno, y de todos los aspectos, porque eso desestabiliza totalmente a una persona.
Nunca es suficiente para mí, porque siempre quiero más de ti.
Bueno, de mi parte, mi historia en Santuario empieza viviendo yo en una finca un poco alejado del pueblo. Vivía allá con mi mamá hasta los 11 años más o menos. Luego me fui a vivir con mi hermana, ya que mi mamá falleció. A los 11 años me fui para el pueblo, empecé allá a estudiar el colegio, terminé el colegio, continué con la universidad. Al finalizar la universidad se dio esta oportunidad de emigrar.
Sous le ciel de Paris s'envole une chanson. Elle est née d'aujourd'hui dans le cœur d'un garçon. Sous le ciel de Paris marchent des amoureux. Leur bonheur se construit sur un air fait pour eux.
Decidí tomar esta decisión de venir a vivir a París porque, bueno, principalmente porque quería un cambio de vida, quería como hacer otras cosas, de salir del pueblo porque siempre es lo mismo, es muy chiquito y hay muy pocas oportunidades laborales. Bueno, quería como conocer el mundo. ese permiso de turista que tenemos los colombianos es solo de 3 meses. 3 meses después, pues ya quedé de forma irregular. Ya se inicia luego un proceso por el tiempo que uno lleva acá, la forma en que trabaja, que con el tiempo puedo llegar a tener un tipo de residencia o de estar de una forma legal acá.
Mira, y eso, ese trámite de conseguir la residencia es difícil. ¿Cómo lo ves vos? Ese
Es,
trámite.
sí, sí, es bastante difícil. Los franceses son un poco complejos en todo este tema de documentos, entonces es un proceso largo de paciencia y de llevar muchos documentos. Pero se puede, sí, sí, yo sé que se puede y muchas personas lo han hecho, pero sí había idealizado mucho la ciudad, sí había pensado que era como todo era perfecto, que no pasaba nada malo, entonces sí fue un choque como de cuando me dijeron, mira, ten cuidado con tu bolso, con el teléfono, te lo van a robar, y yo como que wow, eso también pasa acá, pensé que no.
Respecto a lo de no estar declarado, el mayor desafío, digo yo, es encontrar a una persona que pague la cantidad justa, ya que en mi caso, la persona que me dio trabajo, el salario que ofrece es bastante bajo, teniendo en cuenta el promedio legal en Francia. Me pasó y me está pasando, estoy trabajando con un señor francés, él paga, bueno, hablemos de cifras, él paga 9 euros la hora, si no me equivoco el promedio en Francia está en 15, 18, más o menos, ya ahí nos damos cuenta la gran diferencia.
These are unfortunately things and patterns that are very common across the world. It is, it happens in most countries because of the dynamic that exists, where employers would prefer to pay less if they can, right?
Right.
And the fact that a person is an irregular status, that makes them at risk, and they don't want to get, no one wants the police called on them, for example. And so their rights are not protected because they are there irregularly. They either, don't have a visa, or they don't have a work permit, or they have overstayed their visa. So it puts them in a position of vulnerability. It makes their negotiating ability much lower, right? And that's where the risks come. And many people around the world, millions of people, are in these positions across many countries.
For many, exploitation isn't the only burden. There's also the constant knowledge that everything they've built could disappear at any moment.
Es cierto, es un poco incómodo, estresante ver a un policía y sentirse quizás con ese miedo de ser controlado, de que pueden darte una carta de expulsión, de que podrías tener que irte pronto de París, de Francia.
Bueno, en mi caso, no, mira que en ese tema siempre he sido como muy tranquila. Normalmente a las mujeres nos controlan muchísimo menos. A los hombres normalmente es los que la policía está como más pendiente de controlarlos, de pedirles los documentos. Sí conozco muchas historias de muchas personas que les han dado carta de expulsión, que las han controlado, que incluso les han negado trabajo. No, porque usted no tiene papeles, no le podemos dar trabajo. Pero no, en mi caso no. Siempre he trabajado con familias que me han declarado, que no han visto como un problema que yo no tenga mis papeles en regla. extraña a uno mucho como ir a recargarse nuevamente de energía de la tierra natal de uno. Es como, no sé, siempre quieres volver al lugar de origen, ¿no? Pero yo estoy en proceso de hacer mis papeles, mi cita la tengo en marzo, entonces, bueno, tengo muchas expectativas y esperanza de que todo va a salir bien y ahí podría ir de vacaciones a Colombia sin ningún problema.
In many countries have policies to regularize the
People.
stay of migrants, right? And irregular migration, the reason it is one of the reasons it is complicated is because it puts people at risk, right? And because it creates situations where there is heightened vulnerability, and then you don't get necessarily all the benefits from migration that could be gotten in a sense, right? So of course, I think in finding pathways and finding ways to regularize the stay of people or the status of people is something that many countries have done and something that could be very, very useful. But again, it is highly context specific, right? And it is important that, again, and this is a concern of many countries, including IOM, that we don't want to see a proliferation or a further increase in human smuggling or human trafficking, which is really abhorrent practices where criminals are benefiting from the distress and, from the despair of people.
Across the world, migrants are trafficked into forced labor, debt bondage, and sexual exploitation. They're promised jobs or passage, then stripped of their documents, threatened, and trapped. Today, over 27 million people are estimated to be living in modern slavery. Many of them are migrants. They're afraid to report abuse, afraid of deportation, afraid of losing the only chance they think they have. And so, the question becomes, what must be done to stop it?
I think first, it's very important that governments use evidence to help them form and create policies.
Right.
Very often we find some policies are not necessarily evidence-based. They're not based on data and analyzed data. So it's important that countries know what their migration flows look like, what their migration trends really look like, what migrants are bringing to their countries economically, right? What their needs are in terms of labor, in terms of what kind of sectors, etc., right? And to be able to identify the opportunities and the risks. And then use that data and use that proper analysis that's comprehensive to really figure out what are the best options for them. So that could be, one of them, of course, is trying to diversify regular migration pathways. So the more options people have to migrate safely, the more these options are accessible, the less irregular migration there is, right? So making regular pathways, enhancing them and making them more diversified and making them more accessible is going to be very important. But also cooperating with other governments, with other countries, not only neighboring countries, for sure, with other countries as well, because migration is a global issue. It is an international issue by default, right? People are moving from one place to another. So governments talking to each other and cooperating to find solutions that work for multiple countries is very important, right? But also really centering the policies on the people themselves. It has to be people-centered, right? We have to put people at the center of the policies. And so these are some of the few things. But then, of course, we need to talk about border management as well, and border security are very important. Taking measures to really enable the return and reintegration of migrants in many countries. This is something incredibly important. Countering human smuggling and human trafficking. So there's a whole lot of things that governments and partners, not only governments, governments and civil society and the private sector, and all of us need to come together. So the Global Compact for Migration is a is the first global sort of agreement. It's a non-binding agreement that most countries around the world have signed on. It has 23 objectives, starting from data and going all through skills, counter-trafficking, access to services, rights, etc., that really outlines what countries can do to benefit from migration.
While working on this documentary, I began to understand that this issue isn't just about statistics or policy. It's about people. Through conversations with Lucero and Sebastian, I saw how migration is rarely a simple choice. It's shaped by fear, hope, and the need to survive. Their stories weren't about through numbers. They were about endurance, loss, and the will to keep going. And through the insights of the international organization migration director, it became clear how complex this crisis really is. How easily people fall through the cracks, and how much depends on the systems meant to protect them. What stayed with me the most was not just what they went through, but how easily it could happen to anyone in their position. Because behind every headline, every statistic, every policy debate, there's a human life trying to move forward.